I'm here again with Philip Howard, and Philip, cannot thank you enough for taking the time. Really, really appreciate it. Tell us a little bit about the Rule of Nobody. I know that this book has been very successful, probably on its way to being a national bestseller. Give us a little color.
Well, the Rule of Nobody basically argues that we can't repair the system of government, that it's structurally paralyzed. It's both an attack on a theory of the rule of law that tries to prevent humans from making choices. Again, the contrast between the Constitution, which is 10 pages long, which has principles like unreasonable searches and seizures and freedom of speech that have to get interpreted, but they're interpreted by reference to social norms of what's reasonable, in the time. And then there are things like the Volcker Rule to implement one part of Dodd-Frank, to the ban on proprietary training, which is 950 pages long.
Right. Well, it's amazing because it's we deal with obviously a ton of financial services firms, all the big firms and the small firms, and to this day I don't think they fully understand what the Volcker Rule is or what Dodd-Frank is, and they're still trying to figure it out.
They're completely incoherent, right. And there are multiple financial regulators for the banks, so the banks might as well be running a gauntlet. It's completely incoherent. It's not good regulation. It's not just that it's costly. It doesn't make any sense. It's not good regulation. So Paul Volcker, for example, whom I've been talking with about this, Paul Volcker is going to propose a simplification of the whole financial regulatory system.
Mm-hmm. Are there any countries out there that we should be emulating?
Germany does environmental reviews and approvals in a year to 2 years maximum for really big projects, and they have a much greener footprint in their economy than we do. Australia got rid of 1,000 nursing home rules, very detailed things like, you must store food no less than 15 centimeters above the floor, and hot food shall be no less than 115 degrees, and there should be 0.09 recreational workers per resident. These rules go on forever. Mm-hmm. So people spend their whole day trying to comply with the rules. They replaced all those rules a couple of decades with 31 general principles. Have a home-like setting, respect the dignity of the residents, serve nutritious meals. The experts scoffed, said, these nursing home operators are going to get away with murder. Within a year, they were all dramatically better because people went to work trying to actually care for the people who resided in the nursing homes instead of just complying with rules.
It's fascinating now because we at OneWire, we focus on financial services, and the number one search we have today is Chief Compliance Officer. Right. They want everybody to conform to the rules.
Oh, yeah. Think of the thing. So I'm at a great law firm, Covington Burling, and we have all these rules that come out of the compliance department. Things like a list of questions I'm not allowed to ask interviewees. So one of the questions I'm not allowed to ask is, where are you from? You say, no, well, that's so stupid. Well, the truth is, you could say it in an offensive way. You could say, where are you from? And but you can do anything in an offensive way, right? So I just ignore the rules. But if we have a daughter who's a teacher. It's a rule in schools in America today that you cannot put an arm around a crying child. Because who will protect you if somebody said that was an unwanted touching? Yeah. So we have this bizarre situation where young children can't get the comfort they need when they're upset. It's just, it's the death of common sense.
Yeah, no question about it. What about young people today? And I'm talking really young, 10-year-old, 15-year-old kids. What do you think their lives are going to be like, and what do you think they should go into the legal business? What areas do you think they should focus on?
I actually think going to law school is a very good thing to do, as long as you don't become a lawyer.
Yeah. Okay.
It's particularly with all the law, it's going to take decades to straighten out what I'm talking about. In the meantime, look at all the CEOs who are general counsels. Mm-hmm. Why is that? It's because at least they can say, when the lawyer says, oh, no, you can't do that for legal reasons, they can push back and say, well, that doesn't make any sense at all. So I actually think legal training is great today.
So, Philip, I know you're pretty much party agnostic, but what do you think it's going to take the Democrats or the Republicans to win the next election?
Well, you have to get the trust or hope of the American people. And so President Obama was elected with a motto, change we can believe in. You know, it seems sort of ironic now, right?
Right.
Or nothing happened. You know, I think that we need a new public narrative. We need a leader who acknowledges, who tells the truth to the people and says, this system is clogged up. You know, we haven't reset our priorities for decades. We keep adding more programs and never subtracting any. You know, we need to create the conditions under which, at every level of responsibility, people have to make choices. They have to take responsibility. Congress has to take responsibility for all law. Principals have to take responsibility for schools, including whether the teachers are any good. You know, teachers have to take responsibility for their own success in their classroom, and they need the authority to do that. Jeb Bush, who's one person who's running, seems to be going in that direction, which I think is incredibly constructive. Then we can really kind of open our eyes and look at all the things that we're missing out on. The media has to get involved. The media is incredibly complicit. I was talking to the head of the New York Times the other day. He said, you know, you guys are completely screwing it up. All you talk about is what's happening, and you never talk about what's not happening. Well, the scandal is what's not happening.
I'm really concerned with the fact that at some point we're going to have to pay the piper. We're going to have to fix things and address some pretty big issues that are getting pushed off time and time again.
To do that, though, both parties have to change positions in ways that are uncomfortable for them. So the Democrats, for example, have two really important special interests, the public unions and the trial lawyers, who prevent any structural change in government. They just prevent it. I mean, we at Common Good had a partnership with the Harvard School of Public Health a few years ago. We came up with a new proposal for fixing the medical malpractice problem, which leads to $100 billion or more of defensive medicine every year. Basically create expert health courts. Everybody was for it. Communists were for it. I mean, we had all the patient safety experts for it. Every newspaper in the country, more or less, was for it. Everyone in healthcare was for it. Business was for it. But one group hated it, which were the trial lawyers. And it's not all the plaintiffs' lawyers, just really a few thousand big rich guys who make a lot of money. John Edwards was one of them. Basically extorting hospitals whenever there's a tragedy. And they go, some baby's born with cerebral palsy, and they sue for $30 million. You could have done that. Well, the science says that almost nothing the hospital did could have caused cerebral palsy. It's a virus in the room. But our legal system's so unreliable, you go to a jury, there's a good chance with a tragedy there, you could get a lot of money, right? So that leads to all this defense. So we had a solution for it. We had a huge coalition. And I met with the leaders of Congress who were Democrats at the time, said, God, that's a great idea. We could really save all this money. How do the trial lawyers feel about it? I said, well, they hate it because they make money on the extortion. And they said, well, we can't do it then. I said, well, who do they represent? The patient safety experts are for us. You know, and they said, it doesn't matter. That's where we get the money.
So, Philip, what can people do?
Well, people have to take ownership in the problem. It will not fix itself. You just have to decide what makes sense and begin to put pressure in the ways that you can, whether it's with a politician asking for money, whether it's getting involved in a local group that's trying to fix something in your community that doesn't make any sense because it's too bureaucratic. They can certainly get involved in Common Good. We have a lot of prominent people.
Let me interrupt. How can they get in contact with Common Good? What's the best way?
Well, commongood.org. It's very easy. Just go sign up. If they have something they want to do, I'll meet with them and talk about change. We're thinking about doing a documentary movie. We have lots of programs that we're working on around the country. We have a partnership with the National Governors Association to rewrite federal mandates in schools. There are all these projects that that people who want to get involved in national policy could help advise us on, they could help us fund.
Well, I always love this last question, and that is, you're talking to the graduating class at UVA, and you're giving your words of wisdom, and this is your moment to say exactly what people can do and what you think they should do.
I think the most important thing for a graduate to do is to take ownership of their own choices. Don't think that they're going to get a job and the job will solve their problems and their life is different. Life will be fulfilling when they wake up in the morning and they think, how am I going to make a difference? How am I going to create something and add value myself in whatever setting it is? It's just so important not to be a cork bobbing in the stream.
Well, you certainly have been helping to make things happen, no question about it. Really, really appreciate your being on the show. And for those that have not read The Rule of Nobody, you should definitely pick up this book. It is a phenomenal read. And Philip, cannot thank you enough for your time.
Great to be with you, Skip.